Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of What a Hell of a Way to Dad. It is Nate and Francis, and today we have with us a guest. We have Keaton, an 18-year-old child.
Yeah.
Legal adult, but child in our eyes.
Legal adult, but when you messaged me about this, like, oh, I have this 18-year-old I want to bring on, I did quick math. I'm like, when he was born, I was already done with my first deployment. That's not a great feeling.
Yeah, so we actually know this because Keaton's birthday is the day after mine. He was our intern at Trashfuture last summer, and so he was born September 29th, 2005.
My PIN number is...
Yeah, I know exactly where I was when he was born. I was getting yelled at by my girlfriend at the time because I celebrated she wasn't 21 yet, and I was. So I went out to the bars and got hammered and wound up at the gay bar that served really strong drinks. She was like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" So I absolutely know where I was.
Most of my time between deployments between 2004 and 2009 is a blur, so I don't know where I was at that point in 2005. I was probably drunk and sad. So
you were probably listening to My Humps by the Black Eyed Peas.
Is that what the kids were doing then?
No, it was on the radio. It was around.
Yeah.
I wasn't listening to music by then. I was drunk and sad. I knew of it, so
you were listening to the Halo music then because you were playing Halo.
No, didn't even play video games.
You didn't game? Wow.
No, I drank. I drank and was sad. And yeah, again, I don't really know what I did because I didn't start going to college until I was like 26. So we're talking about 23. I was dating a girl who left me for another woman, so we have that going for us.
I mean, sometimes this happens.
I'm so sorry that my birth caused all these terrible things in people's lives.
It's bringing up so many memories. The day you were born, I remember it. I was drunk and sad and dating a woman who hated me.
I was a junior in college. I was in my third year of college at Indiana University, Bloomington.
Yeah.
So Keaton interned with us at Trashfuture last summer, and I realized this today that he was coming in to say hi, and that it would be fun to have you on because Francis and I will oftentimes try to talk and not like opine or like, make pronouncements about like what young people think, like, do, etc., but more sort of contrast our experiences and the things we get kind of by extension on our show, because we do have some young fans, not really your age, but people, let's say in their
people in their 20s, yeah,
in their 20s, and mid to late 20s often, and sometimes like as young as like 20, 21, 22.
Yeah.
If you're an 18-year-old fan, write in and tell us why.
I was 13. I came to a live show when I was 13 years old at the Edinburgh Fringe.
Keaton came to our live show, and then his mom, I guess you must have asked your mom about the merch for a birthday gift.
Yes, I did.
And so she asked us if we would be willing to like write a card for him. So we actually gave him a little letter and had everyone in the cast sign it and send it to him.
I'm trying to imagine explaining to my mom, can you please buy me this t-shirt that says, "What if you can post from your brain?"
It was, "What if your phone was the cops?"
The phone was the cops one, yeah. And I've still got that t-shirt. And no, so it was specific. It was funny because I'd been listening since I was like, it's a whole story, but like I was the kind of 11-year-old who listened to TF and the coolest 11-year-old in the world. And
I mean, if you were listening at 11, based on when you were born, you were listening in the very beginning.
Very early.
So it's like there was the burnt custard, I think it was, flavored vape juice that was left over at a party at Riley's house or something like that. Like, yeah, the custard flavored vape juice. I can't remember. There was some other modifier in describing it, but yeah, it was early days.
Yeah, very early scenes.
I don't know if that's better than what my daughter is into, which is Lego Ninjago podcasts.
I mean, she's a bit younger. Francis's daughter is 9, so yeah.
Oh yeah, my again, that's the other thing that I can like. I often get asked about like what kids are into, so like 9 to 11, and I'm like, I'm 18. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I don't hang out with 9-year-olds.
Also, you were an 11-year-old that was listening to Trashfuture. That is that's a little different.
Yeah, I was not at all.
You're not a normal.
No, in the best way, hopefully, but it's fundamentally quite interesting because I was very much not into the kind of stuff that kids my age were into when I was a bit younger. So kind of going back to it now and looking at stuff that I missed out on, and then like going back now because going into the new stage of life and things like that, I've been looking back at stuff from my like childhood, and it's funny to see like what people were actually doing and then what I was doing. So there's a lot of different contrast, yeah.
Because I was kind of I wasn't the same. I was both into stuff that would have seemed really eccentric and strange for a kid my age to be into, but also into the same stuff that other kids were into in the sense of like video games or like the movies we watched.
Yeah.
I went to theaters to see the same Disney movies and I played video games, but also because of my brother's music taste, I just got exposed to weird music that you wouldn't like. I liked Erasure when I was 11. That's not really a band in America you would expect an 11-year-old to listen to.
Yeah.
But also, like, one of my best friends in elementary school, his favorite band was Oingo Boingo, Danny Elfman's band, which is also perhaps a strange one for an 11-year-old to listen to. But we also listened to Green Day. We both like loved Green Day, so it was like a mix and match kind of thing.
And it's funny actually that you mentioned Green Day in that, because it would be interesting because all of the stuff that you were probably into when you were my age is the stuff that people my age are now into. So
when I was your age, I turned 18 in 2002, and so there was kind of like a lot of the kind of indie sleaze stuff, what we call it, the bands that were popular, like the Strokes was the big kind of standard bearer for that. But I was into that, but I also really liked the Grand Theft Auto games, for example.
Yeah.
I have seen Donnie Darko many times. I also liked, like, I remember seeing 28 Days Later in theaters or like Terminator 3, that kind of thing. So Green Day, I was into probably between the ages of, let's say, like 11 and 13. But then obviously I was kind of surprised because they seemed like they were falling off, and then they put out American Idiot in 2004, and it was actually like quite a good album and quite like a well-realized album.
9/11 had a lot of silver linings.
Yeah.
One of them was American Idiot, which is a great album. Sure.
Guys, people who really, really hate seeing people trim their fingernails on passenger planes are so happy 9/11 happened.
Yeah. I was too young to even be alive for 9/11. So like seeing stuff about like the early 2000s, so like 2003 to 2009 is really what everyone is going back to in my generation now. So like maybe like 2012, because if I'm at a party, the like music that's played is either like really like stuff from like this year or like first album Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, like 2012 dancehall, like club hits.
If somebody plays the Black Eyed Peas, Let's Get It Started, but the explicit version, I'm sorry. I apologize. We didn't know that those words were bad back then.
No, it's a different time. Yeah,
you know the original.
I know the original song. Yeah. I don't want to say it on camera and get cancelled.
Yeah, but yes, that was what it was called. And then they had to change it because the NBA wanted to use it and feature stuff at games. Like, you cannot sing this song. Like, we do stuff with the Special Olympics. You cannot fucking have it be called that.
I mean, again, when did American sports stop using rock and roll number 2? Have they stopped?
They probably haven't, because think about the popularity of using it with the Joker movie.
Oh, God.
Really, like, in that being a very American thing, like, rock and roll number 2 is the Gary Glitter song. Hey, that song. But Gary Glitter is a notorious child sex criminal, and in Britain in particular, like, they don't play his stuff anymore because
that's surprising that Britain would be like, oh, sexual
get
predator.
Rid of it. Yeah, I think it's
normally you have to die first, and then everyone has to pretend they knew nothing before they finally, they let the secret out.
I think he was slightly too obvious with it.
Yeah, also
he was like, I'm going to move to Thailand for non-pedophile reasons.
He got kicked out of Thailand, so he went to Cambodia, and then Cambodia was like, wait, how did this guy get a tourist visa? He's got all these criminal convictions for child sex. They kicked him out. So he went to Vietnam, and then he wound up getting convicted of crimes in Vietnam and deported back to Britain. And then he got let out on license in Britain and was observed in an internet cafe, basically trying to ask someone how to install the Tor browser on his computer for completely innocent reasons. And so then went back to prison.
Pedophile version of how do I open PDF.
And so, yeah, that song, but that I guarantee you, if you go to a sporting event in America, you will. Okay, I won't guarantee it, but I would be very surprised if it was like ubiquitously removed.
It's like that. Kerncraft 4000, those kind of...
I don't know what that is. What are you talking about? I don't know it.
You'll know it if you hear it. My rendition's not great.
Yeah.
Zombie Nation, that one.
That one.
Yeah, see,
let's do the whole song a cappella now.
Just do it now, yeah. I mean, Blur's song 2 is a song that the only song by them that's known in America, and most people don't associate it with the band or the name of the song. They just, oh, the Woohoo song.
The Woohoo song,
yeah.
I had no idea that they were every time. I've learned that Blur is British like 5 times, and I'm surprised every time.
Yeah.
Well, it's just funny because they were one of the biggest, if not the biggest band in the 90s in Britain. Like them and Oasis were sort of head to head, and like they won the sort of contest of putting out their albums the same week, and Blur's album came out at #1, but Oasis has wound up doing better overall. Like that, they were huge. But it's weird to me to think of, well, okay, it is weird for me to think of that, but then I think like you describing people going to parties and playing music from the 2000s, but then take it back 20 years. I was in college in the early 2000s, early and mid 2000s, and you'd go to parties and it was like you said, either brand new contemporary stuff or people were playing like Guns N' Roses, or like, I remember being at a party where they played Come On Eileen. Like, you know,
they played Come On Eileen at a party I was really recently.
But Britain also has a thing when it's British music that like, it's basically timeless.
Yeah.
That you, like, I've made the comment before that one time I was getting my haircut or I was waiting on a haircut at this barber in Whitechapel, and they were listening to one of the London FM radio stations. I don't know which one. And they played Joy Division's She's Lost Control, which would basically never be played on pop radio stuff in America, like maybe college radio, but that if they were going to play Joy Division, they wouldn't play that song. And then it was followed up by James Blunt, You're Beautiful. And like, I was like, this is so incongruous. But then like, yeah, you'll be listening, you'll play the Sugar Babes, and then you'll be Sound and Vision by David Bowie, which like is off an album that never gets played in America. No. Like they don't, songs from Low never got played. Or they don't get played now on the radio in America. If they played David Bowie, it's basically only Ziggy Stardust stuff or the title track from Heroes.
Or the Labyrinth soundtrack.
Yeah, the Labyrinth soundtrack. Yeah.
When was Let's Dance?
That was, oh yeah, you're right. Let's Dance is a good one. That 83.
Yeah. So like 19, what I've always found quite interesting is like really early. So like 68 to 70 Bowie.
Oh, like Queen Bitch and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like
that only gets played in Wes Anderson movies.
No, yeah, and like the Gravedigger one.
I mean, because he had his first album, was it Davy Jones or whatever, when he went under, and then he had David Bowie was his second album, and then I think it was Space Oddity was the third.
Space Oddity was like, again, it's interesting that like how early he was, because it was like, yeah, the first album came out in 67, 68.
Yeah, he was like 20 or 21.
Yeah, like proper like.
It's very funny to think of like
peacoat, long hair
being
type.
2 years older than you, and you're David Bowie, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna put out my album, and everyone's like, this fucking sucks, and you'll never go anywhere.
And then
Labyrinth happens.
And then Labyrinth.
You get to wear a codpiece.
And then the song and then his performance in Extras, the two things that he's most famous for.
His performance in what?
Extras.
I don't even know that one.
I know Extras is it's a Ricky Gervais show.
See, if Francis will know it. If I don't know it, like that's how we kind of like, you know, we form up like Voltron, that like my gaps
exactly
in
it's
pop
a collective consciousness.
Yeah.
I have an encyclopedic knowledge of British comedy for some reason, because I grew up watching Red Dwarf.
There was a market, we were talking about this before the recording, that there was a market for kind of like British TV ephemera in America, and I can't remember what the catalog was you could get, that like you could order VHS cassette like sets of stuff like Hitchhiker's Guide.
It was all PBS.
Oh yeah, PBS. Yeah.
It was all PBS because PBS understood that people with British accents are cultured. So the show about a bunch of dudes lost in space and a guy who gets pregnant in a opposite world, all of that had to be on PBS because
that's essentially the same as Oscar Wilde, really. Yeah. But it's funny about that, because English accents being considered very cultured. Because again, I was like, two things. One, I think you've lived here for a while, and also if you have like a knowledge of people, I wonder, because American accents, people are like, I know what a Southern accent sounds like. I know what a Jersey accent sounds like. I know what the kind of like basic Chicago kind of like gangster thing, like those like different types of American accents being noticeable as American accents. But if you tried to tell an American, or like, would American people know like people from Birmingham sound
They would, but they wouldn't know it explicitly. It's that they are very familiar with Ozzy Osbourne because of being on TV. And they're like, oh no, he's just, because Americans, it's difficult to explain the distinction between notional British accent versus an English accent. But like, basically they hear that and they think, oh, it's an English guy, but he's really drunk. It's like, yes, but he's from a part of England where they talk like that even when they're not drunk.
That's not like...
Sharon!
Yeah, that accent is not, that's not an alcohol-induced thing. That's just what he sounds like all the time, sadly.
I sound like this because I'm from Birmingham. That kind of talk, yeah.
That sounded like impressions of the Beatles.
Yeah, that is kind of starts trending towards that, doesn't it?
I will say also, a lot of the new Doctor Who, like Christopher Eccleston was the first Doctor Who that when they started redoing it, and one of the running jokes in it was people would be like, he sounds like a Northerner.
Yeah.
because Christopher Eccleston is from, I guess, from northern England.
Where's he? Yeah, he's from like somewhere like Huddersfield or something. Yeah.
Or like having Jason Isaacs just speak with a northern accent playing what is it, Marshall Zhukov
in The Death of Stalin.
What about what's his Statham? Where's Jason Statham from?
Cockney, southeast English.
He sounds like that, but he's from like Staffordshire or somewhere.
Yeah. It sounds like he's lowering his class a little bit in the voice just so he can punch things. A cultured British man does not punch things.
Listen, sunshine.
Yeah.
If I don't change my accent in the next 30 seconds.
If I don't appear to have been less socioeconomically privileged than I was in real life,
my heart will literally explode
in the next 25 minutes. But it's such a huge thing in England specifically about like very, very posh people pretending, because it's quite easy, especially if you're pivoting to an international audience, to do a really, really bad like Cockney or like working class accent.
Yeah, like Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's on that level. So it's like, I don't know if you've ever heard of like, again, love his music, not trying to slag the bloke off, but like, have you heard of Jamie T?
Yeah, from the XX?
No, that's
Jamie something else.
That's Jamie XX.
Yeah,
His name is Jamie XX.
Yeah, that's
Hi, I'm John, Jamie XX. But
Jamie T.
Jamie T did like Sticks and Stones.
I'm not familiar.
Early 2000s.
I got my Jamies mixed up.
Yeah. There's so many Jamies, but like kind of like 2009, 2000 to like 2015, very big. Like a kind of strip back. I'm like rapping, but I've got an acoustic guitar type.
Oh no, they've invented British Post Malone.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And it was like he's got this proper like West London working class, quite hardcore accent. And then you look at his like Wikipedia page or whatever. Oh, he went to Wimbledon Boys School, which is like a fee-paying, like a really high fee-paying school. Where
you would, if you did have that accent, you would be penalized for it. You would be
you'd be saying don't talk like that. That's how like drug dealers talk.
Yeah.
So it's like a teenage rebellion thing. It's like, you know, it's like people like I knew so many people at my schools who were like, I'm going to talk like what I think roadmen talk like.
Are you familiar with that term, Francis?
A roadman?
It sounds familiar.
It's like kind of like kind of like a street guy, like
Top Boy.
Like drug dealer, person who does crime stuff, like just in general, being on the roads means like being in the street, like doing street stuff.
I'm wearing a Nike Tech fleece and a balaclava.
You say Nike in America, so you say Nike, most people are gonna be like, wait, what the fuck?
I'm wearing a Nike Tech fleece and like an Averex jacket, and I'm about to like sell some drugs.
Yeah, but I was about to sell some really terrible cocaine to somebody.
Oh, awful.
Yeah, stepped
very
on cocaine
bad quality
and
stuff.
Just like awful quality weed. Yeah,
weed that's like I've just picked this up from like. It's moss.
Well, I've made the point before that weed is not a particularly lucrative thing because it smells bad and it's not very dense, and so like people easily get picked up for trying to sell it, whereas British people also love cocaine, which is odorless and quite compact, and you can make a lot of money off it. So drug dealers, if you were inclined to buy drugs in the UK, you're used to weed in America, you will simply not find it. You will just get whatever.
Have you seen the movie The Gentleman?
I know of, like the fact that he's like a multi-billion-dollar like marijuana business,
right? And that's it. My wife loves it because it's directed by who's it directed by?
Is it Guy Ritchie or Matthew Vaughn?
Guy Ritchie, yeah. And we love Guy Ritchie makes great British action stuff,
fun,
and it's a fun movie. It's really good. It's got Matthew McConaughey in it. It's got a lot of really great actors in it.
Yeah.
It's a fun movie, but it is also why are you guys so concerned about weed? You're in Britain. Like
there is kind of a weird moral panic about it here.
Like everyone smokes weed in Britain, so no one smokes weed in Britain.
Like I smell weed as often here in London as I did in New York. Now, granted, when I lived in New York, weed wasn't legal yet, but like if you were white, it might as well have been.
Sure.
But I would say that there's like a weird moral panic around drugs in the UK in the sense that like they're way more relaxed about doing them and about talking about them. But like once you set foot in the Houses of Parliament, you are never allowed to pretend that drugs can be anything but illegal forever.
Yeah.
Like they will. I doubt they will.
I've never inhaled even a smoke, even like a whiff of.
But then they're a lot more cavalier in daily life about stuff like cocaine, which in America is a different schedule than weed and like brings much more severe penalties.
Yeah, like the EDL marches, they're all all on sniff anyway.
The thing about the guy the makeup Euro 2020 when they did it in 2021 and like when England got into the finals and there was the guy who had the crowd of like hooting football fans around him, the big kind of heavyset dude in a bucket hat who like got in front of them, held up like above the crowd and then just did a huge line of cocaine in front of all of them and they all cheered.
It's the lads!
That guy plus the guy sticking the lit road flare in his ass. That's like the ego and super ego of England.
And then the completely naked bloke being lifted up crowd surfing.
The naked guy crowd surfing when England beat Sweden in 2018, I believe. He was like not elderly, but he was like probably
he was
in
like
his
60
50
something.
Or 60,
yeah,
completely naked and like all.
He was too old to be doing that. I'll tell you that.
What'd you say?
I said he was too old to be doing that.
Yeah. But that's the thing you will find here is that sometimes you'll see people doing stuff and you're like, you are way, way too old to be doing
this heat wave. It's like people walking around the shows. Like, you're 83 years old. Like, why are you walking around with your... I mean, like, again, no judgment, but it's like, if you're trying to do it to impress people, it's like it's a fundamentally weird thing.
I think that's the thing that, like, I'm
not trying to say that I hate old people.
It doesn't bother me. Well, yeah, because you're talking to the elderly right now. Is it more that, like, when you get to, I think, our age to some extent, but certainly when you get older, is that, like, it's weird to try to impress because you're effectively invisible to young people. Like, not in a negative way, but, like, you're just sort of an old person. You're classed as old person.
Yeah,
and, like,
definitely.
Because I can remember this when I was younger, that, like, you know, people who were in their 20s and 30s or early 40s, like, they still kind of, like, you meet people in bars, you meet people at shows, and, like, they were older, but it didn't necessarily seem that distinct. But once you start to really, you kind of, like, are perceived as older, like, then you're not... It's not, I mean, I'm not saying this like regretfully or in any kind of hostility, but like you're just going to be perceived as old. You kind of blend into the background. And it's interesting though, because again, it's weird because I never felt like that because I was always weirdly more comfortable around adults than I was around like kids my age because I was, again, listening to Trashfuture at 11 years old. Normal. We didn't meet at the show in Edinburgh, but I think I recall seeing you because I can recall, I'm pretty sure you had a trans rights t-shirt on. And I just remember being like, wow, we have some really young fans. That's cool. I'm glad, but also being like, but that was such a weird show because we didn't get the door until 5 minutes before showtime and had to set up everything. And I had gotten completely soaked in a downpour. It was raining so hard, damp the whole show. Yeah. But then after we spoke to your mom, we brought you before the show started so you could meet Rob Delaney at our show in 2019. I remember. Get out the vote show because that went really well. That went really well. I think I just... You were 14. 14. I was saying I'd just been canvassing, or I was just about to go canvassing the day after. I did. I went canvassing twice, once in Peterborough and once in Crawley, and both times were bad. That's playing it on hard mode. Yeah. I'm going to try and campaign for Jeremy Corbyn in Crawley. I could have gone... Well, Crawley was a marginal... They thought people... In 2017, Crawley came very close to flipping to Labour, and so it was considered a target, but then when obviously, like... The vote share shifted massively. It was not a target at all. No. But no one told us. No. But then I specifically remember, because my what was then my seat, Putney, was the only seat in the country to go blue to red. Yeah, go Conservative to Labour. Go to Labour. Because that was the meme that people were sharing with Thanos, and it's like, well, what did you win, Putney? Yeah. What did it cost you? Everything. Everything. And I was like, again, it's funny because that was, and I was like, the day after the election, I remember, because I went to I'm not going to say the name of the school because my head teacher was probably still watching me. But forever. He was very weird. But I went to quite a school because of its geographical location. It was a comprehensive, but it was in Fulham. So it had a lot of... You have to explain both those. We have a mostly American audience, and so people aren't going to know what a comprehensive is or Fulham. Comprehensive schools are schools which take anyone. So you don't have to pay or you don't have to pass an entrance exam. So basically, you've got private schools here, then you've got like selective schools, so grammar schools and stuff like that, where you have to take an exam called the 11 plus to get into them. And then you've got comprehensives where you can just go. And like our public schools. We don't really... Yeah, the closest equivalent in America that I know of, and I'm sure this is elsewhere in the country, but in New York, for example, you have these kinds of magnet school things and they're like specialty schools in the public school system in New York City. And so, for example, like getting into Bronx Science or Brooklyn Tech or Stuyvesant is a really competitive thing. You have to take an exam in 8th grade when you're 14. They are state schools in the British term, like what we would call public schools. But they are selective public schools. Yeah. Like you have to gain entry. Yes, but the term public school here means private school. Yeah. So it's a whole thing. We always say state schools because it's run by the state. But anyway, so that's the school I went to. So it was a comprehensive. And Fulham is in Hammersmith and Fulham, right? Fulham is Westish London. Am I right? Yeah, it's north of the river. It's westish, like southwest. And it's like in between. So you've got like quite kind of like you've got like normal areas. You've got like
there was a council estate next door and kids came off the estate, but then you've also got like Kensington and Chelsea.
So council estates are like public housing, but it's different in Britain than in America in the sense that public housing was massively defunded and stigmatized post-integration, post-civil rights era.
Oh, gotcha.
Whereas in Britain, it's different. Something like 40% of the population lived in public housing in 1979. But what they did was kind of create a system where they would sell it off piecemeal, like condo units individually, and never build more. So it does still exist.
There's no council housing anymore.
But basically, it's not really being built. Where I live, to get a council house, to get on the wait list, you have to prove that you've lived in Southwark for over 5 years. And if you're a single adult, like, kids, not in like put in a category because of like disability or some kind of special needs, the wait list is over 18 years long to get a council flat.
Because they all got sold off in the 80s.
Under Thatcher and this thing called Right to Buy.
Yeah.
And so, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting because I realize there's certain things for American audiences where
no, it's completely fine. 100%. I don't want to like
so you're saying
anyone.
So Maggie Thatcher is the British Ronald Reagan. Everything
100%,
just kind of
1,000%.
Died mad and evil.
But also, she was in power for much longer than Reagan.
Yeah, she was in power for
11 years.
11, 18 years is how long
the
the Tories
were
in
power for 18 years, but she finally got deposed in 1990 for being too weird, and B, she'd won and done everything she said she was going to do, and now they're like, you're too weird.
We can cut you off.
And we're replacing you with the world's most dour man who is constantly cheating on his wife, John Major.
Yeah, but again, that's a whole nother episode, that era. But anyway, so my school took everyone. It wasn't a private. Everyone assumes I'm privately educated, but I'm not privately educated. And I was, so it was a normal school, but it had some very rich students, some very wealthy students. And being like an 11-year-old communist, essentially, in 2017, I had some very there was a lot of animosity between me and the rest of the students about they would make shit jokes, or I think partially because of my abrasive personality and partially because of the fact that I was very much. I wrote a column for the school newspaper. My first column was why Winston Churchill was a genocidal mass murderer, and then my second column was about the Met Police, and they didn't print it. They refused to print it. But yeah, so anyway, that was the kind of background of my school. And the day after the election was like a Friday. Yeah. So I had to go into school, having been very vocally supportive of Corbyn. And then when everything happened that fateful night, I went in the next day and I was like, should I? My parents are quite sympathetic as well, because they were like, yeah, should you want to call in sick? Do you want to say you don't want to come in today? Because I just took so much shit from all these that would have been so much worse had you not shown up. Weirder than a 14-year-old communist is a 14-year-old Tory.
No, I mean, I agree, but people just parrot what their parents say.
Yeah.
And I have this story that I've told Francis before. I think I've told it on the show, but going swimming on election day at the university pool that also had a thing for local school kids in 2004, and just hearing all these kids doing swim lessons, and half of them were like, if John Kerry wins, it's going to be nuclear war. If George Bush is a war criminal, George Bush is clinically insane. They were all 8.
Yeah, you don't know who George Bush is.
They were super excited because it was election day. Something big was going on, and their instructors were trying to keep them quiet, and they're failing. Yeah. But it was just very funny to hear this stuff just completely read off the teleprompter with no analysis level of what they're much younger than 14. Obviously,
Stearns.
We've been getting our daughter onto that. She's not a full-on communist quite yet, but she does. She doesn't like the prison system because she understands that that's institutionalized slavery, but she still feels that cops are protective. So we're still
there's
working
time.
on
Yeah.
it.
Also,
She's
it's quite
9.
Yeah,
She's
9. It's fun. It's fundamentally quite different because it's you teach a 9-year-old to not trust authority. Bad things are going to happen because the first authority that is I'm going to run into the road. Which is kind of what I did when I was 9, which was everything means nothing. I was like a teenage nihilist at 9.
Yeah, she's also been lying to us every night for the last week and a half about sneaking things into her bed and staying up. Last night, I think she got 3 hours of sleep last night because she got up and unlocked her tablet on her mother's phone while we were asleep. So the not caring about authority is kind of already there. It's just kind of backfiring on us.
That's quite unlocking. Yeah, unlocking someone else's phone to then unlock something else. That's I got to hand it to her. That's ingenuity.
I have a friend who told a story once about falling asleep on the couch and being woken up by a strange sensation and thinking it was a bug, and it was her 5-year-old son trying to maneuver his tablet to her thumb back when they had the thumb reader so that he could unlock it and use it.
Again, again, it's like, it's fundamental. It's amazing. Like these kids are just, it's like when the T-Rex in Jurassic Park, the raptor learns how to open the door.
Yeah.
It's like a shift.
I get upset and I get mad because I myself am on 5 hours of sleep every night now because of this for the last week and a half. So I'm half asleep most of the day trying to get her to go to sleep. But also, like, my wife and I always talk about the ways that we got around technology around our parents, and like we were not doing this until we were 12 or 13. So she's like kind of
on it young,
thinking, And I mean, it's not like she's getting on and like she gets on when she goes on YouTube. She's watching Let's Plays of Super Mario Sunshine.
Yeah, she's not like doing like, I mean, again,
she's not into Skibbity Toilet or whatever other weird shit the kids are watching now.
That's the thing, is that when your kids get above a certain age, because obviously my daughter is an infant, but like when you get above a certain age, like you start getting exposed to youth culture stuff that you have no business knowing because like they're talking about it all the time. And so you will know about it. So I know that whatever, 10 years from now, whatever the annoying like sort of teen/tween culture memes that are going to be going around.
I was going to say, it boggles the mind to think what she's going to be into when she's 9.
I only know about Skibbity Toilet because of Twitter. So
right, but
because of all the other olds on Twitter. But
it's like stuff you're going to hear about both. God knows what kind of social media will be popular then, and if I'll be able to stand it. But like that kind of a thing,
brain scans.
You see it, being talked about kind of like by youngish people, like late teens, early 20s. But then you also see some of these reverberations, and like kids know about it. Like the reason I know about some of the lore about Minecraft is because I babysat my friend's kid a couple times, and he was 6 at the time and was really into Minecraft. So I learned about the whole ecosystem of like professionally composed, arranged, and recorded songs about Minecraft that like make money because kids are Minecraft songs and want to hear songs about like this new level in Minecraft.
Yeah.
Oh, Pokemon rap battles.
Or Roblox. Maybe it was actually Roblox, but like Minecraft is a similar thing. And
Roblox, man.
Fortnite songs, like the Tomato Town song, stuff like that. Whether you see it because someone's made a dumb meme about it, using it on Twitter for a dumb video, or because you take care of kids and you are seeing it.
But it's really interesting because like Skibbity Toilet and all that kind of stuff, having like cousins and like being in situations where I was looking after kids that age, that was never really a big thing. And then all the like 20-somethings started making memes and joking about how this is what your 9-year-old watches. And then that started they kind of started living up to the stereotype because they knew like these kids are really like weirdly savvy because they've grown up even more than I am, like digitally native. So they know exactly like these like weird self-fulfilling prophecies. And I think it's really interesting, like the face of this era of like postmodern symbolism is Skibbity Toilet.
Skibbity Toilet sounds like me in age 13 trying to rewrite the lyrics of Zippity Doodah to be something offensive, like, which is 100% the kind of thing I would have done when I was 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this stuff too. It's just interesting. Yeah, because I mean, Francis and I talk about this a lot on the show that, there are times when like I wish that, I could sleep as soundly even with tons of caffeine like I could in my early 20s, or like, a sports injury or something didn't hurt for weeks, things like that. But when it comes to youth culture stuff, I think that kind of being at the point where you're approaching being invisible can be kind of nice because like there's not really a peer pressure expectation to know or care.
I can sit back, enjoy the things I want to enjoy.
The age groups that, marketing research looks out for is like 18 to like 28 and then 28 to 35. And then everything after that is diminishing returns.
Would you like an easy to put on shoe type situation?
Yeah, 35 to 50.
Let me tell you something. I have not tied a fucking shoe in over a year because I have Merrell slip-on sneakers and it's fucking beautiful.
Those like Allbirds sketches.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I still think 35 to 55 and thereabouts is going to be like a marketable demographic, but you start getting ads for like erectile dysfunction pills and life insurance and the British YouTube algorithm has
Nice.
I think Cynthia's got some.
Those look good. Again, like I've got Allbirds for the gym,
but
and like
they're
really good.
Is that they have that stuff now and it's nice as opposed to like 30 years ago where it's like, oh, I don't tie my shoes because I wear like, I don't know, fucking Keds with Velcro because I'm 9. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't really do that as an adult without like making it a joke.
But, much like when I was, when I was learning how to tie shoes. Oh, you're not going to wear Velcro shoes or shoes without laces for the rest of your life, are you? Guess what? Now I will.
Again, fundamentally, like, it's interesting though, because, they say either like, is that because this was just a reasonable thing to do, or is it because like people who are like 35 to 45 want to be kids again? and they're kind of reenacting adult ball pits and stuff like that.
I think it's interesting for me because that stuff doesn't really have any cachet or any pull with me. Like, I don't care. Like, I would not want to go to any kind of thing of like adult ball pit, like ball pit with jungle gym with drinks. Like, first of all, that just sounds like a great way to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
But secondly,
you come to St. Louis, I'll show you City Museum, which is a massive like 10-story building with a 10-story circular slide you can go down and all kinds. It was created by one of our local eccentrics. And it is a place where you can. There's jungle gyms and stuff, but there's a lot of saved architecture from around the Midwest and everything. So it does exist. But yeah, this idea of going back to childhood, like I don't want to do that at all. Like I don't want to be 18 today because it was hard enough when I was 18 20 plus years ago.
Well,
so
yeah, I think about the certain degree of like having to be like being self-conscious about whether or not, I was like doing the thing that I should be doing, making the most use of my time, like not feeling like I fit in, wanting to be perceived as cool. Like, I think not having those concerns is nice, but also like, I think the thing that's interesting for me is that obviously doing this, I mean, the reason I know you is because I'm part of a thing performing that has become successful enough to have an audience. But I was 33 when I moved to Britain. Like Francis and I started Hell of a Way in 2016. I mean, you started and then I joined in 2016. But I hadn't been doing anything public and, till I was much older, like doing live podcast shows, touring, that kind of thing. And so I had a completely normal adult life of being completely anonymous, of like no one gave, like my friends knew who I was, but no one gave a damn about it. And I say that in a good way. And so it's like, I think recently I watched this documentary film about the American singer Bill Withers, who I'm a huge fan of his music. I mean, he passed away, sadly, I think a couple of years ago, but he, grew up Black in West Virginia, enlisted in the Navy at 17 to get out of West Virginia, and then was working in aircraft assembly in Los Angeles, and then had been singing and composing and was like, I'm going to try to make it in music. And he did, and he was successful. But like at 33, it was like, no, there's no way on this planet. Like, no, back in those days, no one was going to treat you like that was anything serious. You were too old. And one of the things he said was that like, it was easier to stay grounded as, he was obviously a huge star, but like, even as a performer, as a public figure in any capacity, because you had that normal life experience. This might be what you've got is great, but that might be all it is. Fine. That's fine.
Yeah, it's good.
And it's like having that and having kind of made peace with that if things change, great. But like, it's one of those things where I don't really worry about it. Whereas I feel like, I mean, certainly if I had been successful in this kind of a thing and when I was very young, I would have had a lot more insecurities that I think would have been like made me really vulnerable. But like now it doesn't really matter. Like I don't go, for example, looking for like people who hate our shows or who want to talk like, because like, it doesn't matter. Like that's not going to do anything good for my life. And
you've got other stuff to think about.
Yeah, I have to be home today to pick up my daughter from nursery because my wife's got an appointment or a meeting at work. And it's like, I'm gonna have a baby who's gonna either be in a good mood or a bad mood and either happy or yelling at me. Like if whatever your criticism of the stuff that I do is, there are other things where like I bring this to like a point here, which is that like there's things I miss about being young in terms of like energy levels and stamina, and like there is of course that notion of sort of you've all these amazing potential opportunities of like the sort of drowning in possibility kind of things that you can look at. But I'm happy with how things have wound up, and I'm really glad that like I just don't feel any urge to kind of measure up in terms of like, is what I'm doing cool, or what am I doing the things that you ought to have done by the time you are X age kind of thing.
Yeah. Like, and that stuff about like being how like stuff that you should have done by the time you're X is old is that's kind of come back in a big way with all this kind of like wellness, motivational grind set stuff.
Yeah, you haven't bought a Lamborghini by the time you're 19, you're a failure.
You're a failure.
Etc.
What color is your Bugatti?
All I can say is that I one time saw a custom decal wrapped Lamborghini with basically Crypto Advice Geneva is how you would translate it, like Geneva Crypto Council. And then I saw the guy who was driving that Lamborghini take the bus home. And you know what? Because he parked the car as like the rolling advertisement, and he was wearing the Crypto Conseil Genève shirt, and then got on the bus because like, at the end of the day, man still has to go home on the bus, even if he's got the fake rented Lamborghini.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't care.
I feel like we're coming into a renaissance again of, back in the 1800s, you could be like, I'm a farmer. And then one day you could be like, I think I want to be a doctor today. And you could just be a doctor. And if you weren't a successful doctor, you could start a shop somewhere. Like you could just kind of jump from job to job, because back then it did not take much. It didn't take much to be a doctor in the 18.
Can you cut hair and apply leeches?
Can you cut hair and arms?
I kind of like the professionalization of medicine. I'm not going to lie.
It's better now.
No, I'm with you there. It is better, but I do think that like one kind of like silver lining to moving into more of a gig economy is that you can reinvent and change yourself. Like, I mean, come on, we're changing over to What a Hell of a Way to Dad. And it's not a like how are we gonna, you know, Nate and I don't want to talk about the military all the time anymore. So
we've been out for so long,
having a solely military podcast just doesn't make sense. So we want to transition to something else. And I think that like ability to constantly reinvent and change who you are and change the things that you're doing. It's not about am I at the place I should be at this age? It's, am I happy with what I'm doing? Am I enjoying what I'm doing? Like, if I didn't enjoy doing this podcast, like, podcasting is hard. I know that like we complain that it sounds stupid when you complain about talking into a microphone, but like, you know, Nate, you said that you've recorded 3 times today.
Yeah, this is my third today. My first is at 9 a.m. Like, and obviously production is not the job everyone does, but like there's just a lot that goes into it, and it's
I remember when I was interning, like setting up this studio took like a lot of time and effort. And again, it's because of the ubiquity of certain things on the internet. People assume, and maybe this is true, that like creating stuff is easy, and they're like because they can, like filming something on your phone, everything becomes the same level.
The number of times that I've had to host TF myself when Riley was out, where I had to write the show notes, like it's a very different show and it's so much work. Like genuinely, you know, there's so much that goes into it, and it's like, I don't know, I'm not like woe is me about it, but it's more like I like what I'm doing and it's interesting. It's not as easy as people think, in the sense that like if we showed up with no idea of what to talk about and no ability to talk, and we couldn't produce the show to sound decent, like the show wouldn't be able to make
you wouldn't be able to live off it.
Showing up on time, like having like just the ability to show up on time, have consistency. Like that is like 80% of what you need to do, and everything else will kind of come from there.
100%.
I'm interested, Keaton, like what are the sorts of things that you kind of have observed people being like, you know, as a young person, like you ought to have done X by Y time? Like the crypto shit notwithstanding, just like in stuff that you think like has purchase outside of that.
It's a lot of like, basically it's 2 strands. It's like kind of weirdly menacing therapy speak stuff. So like you need to have like actualized yourself, and like, you know, you need to like be talking about all of your like problems and insecurities, and like specifically like go to therapy.
What diagnosis do you have, Keaton?
Oh, I've got the big 3. I'm autistic, and I have OCD, and I have ADHD, which I just got recently diagnosed. That's why I'm talking so fast, because I'm on speed right now. I've just started taking.
He and I are the lisdexamphetamine duo. We're on the European version of Vyvanse.
Back when we were Keaton's age, you were just crushing up Adderall and snorting it for a good time, and now it's like, oh, I got to take it because it's prescribed.
I never took Adderall. I was never prescribed meds. I didn't start meds until I was, I think, 37 or 38. But I was consuming enough caffeine to kill a horse and not really having any effect from it. Like, I would drink pots of black coffee and then doze off. Like,
And again, it's interesting though, because you have that stuff, but then also there's kind of like, there's a weird, everything has just become symbols and signs that have been completely separated from their actual tangible real life meanings. So we live in the age of the mood board. Everything is just like, oh, I want to be like in a linen shirt on a beach in Greece, or like I want to be in like The Talented Mr. Ripley or stuff like that. So like,
it's not nice to talk about Riley when he's not in the room.
I want to be eating oysters. But no, again, it's a lot of that stuff. And like a lot of it isn't, again, I think it's interesting though, because we've moved away from wealth as a fundamental thing. Because I think there was like,
health is now the thing. It's all about
health,
being
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, how many times do we have to read an article about the guy who's like having his son's blood injected
Brian
into
Johnson,
him?
Brian Johnson, the horrible freakish man. Yeah, every 8 months we have to have a new picture of him wearing some insane tech about how he's going to live to be 113. Yeah, the 40. Again, I can't remember who said it, but it was someone, and just so that I don't get accused of stealing a joke, but someone said that like Brian Johnson, a 45-year-old man who is living a life of constant misery, to look like a slightly wet 43-year-old man. Yeah, like it's not working. But and also, I think look, I'm 41 and I look fucking great. Again, I don't do any of that shit. I don't do any of that shit. Again, you have to age. You can't stop aging, because aging is basically what turns you into a person. But I think it's interesting though, because wealth is basically a thing of the past for people my age. None of us are ever going to actually have any money.
You're never going to have it, so why worry about it?
Or actually be able to rent a house or a flat or anything. So it's all like, I'm going to be like healthy. I'm going to be mentally, spiritually healthy. Astrology is a big thing.
The things that you can take control of. Like, I can control what I'm putting into my body. I can control that all these other things. And you can't control the outside economic forces of whatever country you're in. Because, my wife and I have, we own a house and we're looking at, we need something bigger, because that's what you do. You buy a house, you stay there for a little bit, you expand, things. And it's prohibitively expensive.
Here as well, yeah.
Yeah, it's way worse in Britain than in America. But
I know, but like it is also like we bought the last cheap house that didn't require a whole bunch of shit to be done to it, but
in the world,
so we had to still dump $30,000 worth of upgrades and stuff to it because it was a rental house, so of course it was treated like shit for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so now when we're like, okay, well, maybe we can get something that's maybe got like some office space or some storefront, and it's like everything, we would be like doubling our mortgage and then moving into some place where once again, I have to fix the place and I'm tired of fixing houses that I live in.
Yeah, exactly. Live in a place that you want to live in.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because fame is also now something that people think they can control. They can't, but they think they can. So everyone wants to be like an influencer or like have 100,000 followers on Twitter.
The most famous person right now is a woman who drunkenly said, "You should spit on a dick."
Yeah,
and she was on fucking Bill Maher the other day. Like of all
taking a selfie with RFK Jr.
I found this interesting that when like all of the sort of super reactionary internet like alt-right guys like Ian Miles Chong are be like, we've defeated pride because of this girl. And I'm like, she's talking about sucking dick. It's like, do you think that that's not something that
gay people never suck dick? They've never done it in their lives.
Anyone who's not heterosexual is like, you've defeated. It's like, in a way, it's like, no, you know, cultural changes at least in the US are such that like it's not that far off the mark when you look at the episode of The Sopranos where Junior basically is like being harassed because he went down on a girl and he didn't want anyone to find out because like, oh, if you go down on a girl, then you might go down on a guy too.
Yeah,
it's
but
like, you know what I mean? It's like, actually, I think you can make a pretty clear distinction that you will do one and not the other.
How would it ever translate? But
that's not as good as you shouldn't jerk off because if you're willing to touch your own dick, you're probably willing to touch somebody else's dick.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to show something on a slightly different note, but like I'm going to send this to you, Francis, and I'm going to hand the phone to you, Keaton, because you were talking about mood boards and vibe things, and I saw this going around and being like earnestly shared of like someone saying, I want to live in this era, right? But here's the thing.
I thought that was Lana Del Rey. That's an AI photo.
No, it's a real person, but it's done up as like a photographer doing a project thing because it's trying to create like 90s bedroom video game girl vibe, but there's so many anachronisms in the photo and like the kind of, you know, having been there, having been in rooms like that, having had a room like that, there's things that wouldn't be like in the 90s, in the late 90s, midnight, when you have, you know, N64 being popular, a person who's playing games like that is very unlikely to have a Guns N' Roses poster.
Or a Pulp Fiction poster.
Pulp Fiction is also a weird one too, but perhaps slightly more plausible. But Guns N' Roses' apex of popularity was the late 80s, really the early 90s.
Yeah.
Similarly, hair dye didn't exist like that. You couldn't get hair color that bright when you dyed it. Like, it just wasn't possible. Like, you would have had to bleach it and a lot and dye it a lot, and it just wasn't. If you got it that bright, that's literally the day you dyed it, and then it'll start fading. I'd be somewhat weirded out by the idea, you know, having the Leo DiCaprio Titanic poster, but then also what looks like a Black Eyed Peas poster or Red Hot Chili Peppers in the Dave Navarro era, and also the Foo Fighters, and also Pulp Fiction. Like,
it's just shit being thrown together. Exactly,
yeah,
it's the fundamental thing. It's like I see all this stuff again about like
there's a lot of pop culture.
Pop culture. None of it makes any sense. And like I think again, not to sound all like fucking Oswald Spengler on you, but I do think we are living in the.
That's the one that I don't even get the reference.
Fuck is Oswald
Spengler is like pre-Evola, Death of the West type, like American culture is inherently degenerate when in reality he just hates jazz. But
so sort of like European side could have kind of person.
Yeah, so like the statue profile picture people love
JD Vance kind of people.
Yeah. But like, it's again, that's actually a weirdly interesting tangent on that I've brought up myself. I apologize, but that's like a huge thing. Those like a lot of people my age, maybe even slightly younger, maybe a lot slightly older. They say they're like Russian Orthodox. I'm into like traditional English traditional culture. And it's like, this is a photo of a Denny's in 2003. Like, this is, remember what they took from you.
That was my culture.
Yeah, exactly.
My
culture was not your costume.
I've probably been to that Denny's. There's the thing where people...
Where else am I supposed to smoke at 2 o'clock in the morning?
There will be this photo of this like very horrible strip mall looking place, like a really busy main road with like big gas stations and chain restaurants, and be like, you know, my town looks like this, so, you know, Afghanistan can look like this. Some sort of like America's fucked, like America's, you know, culture is destroying, it is sort of corroding. But like I've been to where that photo is taken, because it's a town that's basically just got a highway rest stop when you're driving from. It's in Western Pennsylvania, and it is pretty grim. But that photo is also taken with a telephoto lens that makes it look way more condensed. It's like, you've made it worse to make a stupid point.
Exactly, and like that kind of like all the stuff that like the same kind of annoying person who would be into like Adbusters and like using that photo and saying this is awful, is now championing the same things that were being criticized as awful in like the 90s. So everyone's like, this is what the Jewish communists took from you, and it's like Halo. Like, they're all Halo and like women in video games, like having really like massive tits.
like Lara Croft having like gravity-defying boobs.
Yeah, like triangles.
Because her boobs have like 6 polygons, because that's all the PlayStation could handle.
Yeah, it's like, it's just, again, the reason I wanted to say I don't want to get all Oswald Spengler on you is that I think this has been happening for ages, but I do think now fundamentally there is just such a weird shift in the way in which young people approach culture, and that everything has become so, the idea that things should just be tailor-made. It's like the advent of streaming and the advent of like TikTok and stuff is that people don't like, I mean, again, massive generalizations. Like, all my mates are like, you know, really like not like this at all. And there are so many people out there doing incredibly cool shit who are like younger than me. But it feels like there's movements towards people just like saying, I want what I want to watch. Anything that isn't exactly what I want shouldn't be. It's like the whole like tired like sex scenes in movies discourse.
Well, it's sort of like, I don't like a thing and I don't want it to be enough that I don't like it. It has to make you morally incorrect if you do like it. Or if you don't dislike it.
Yeah, it's a fundamental. It's like, yeah, all that kind of that moral, again, all this stuff, like people used to do this stuff with like God, and now they do it with TV.
Well, yeah, now they're doing it with saying Breaking Bad is problematic.
Or like Steven Universe.
Well, I was going to bring up Steven Universe, the sort of Steven Universification kind of thing that like every people who are really into it have, like everything has to be just like that. But I wanted to say, because it was something that I just found interesting about all of this, is that in a way it's almost like by being something of an eccentric kid, you've kind of like inured yourself to the effect of some kind of weird faddish, like probably crypto right-wing thing.
I never got involved in that. I was like, I'm gonna watch a 1975 BBC production of Harold Pinter's The Birthday Party on YouTube at 14. Which again, that sounds like a weird like.
But I mean, I would like at 14. I wasn't gonna watch The Birthday Party, but I wanted to download albums by The Birthday Party, the first band that Nick Cave was in. It's
a good band.
Not really. I do remember one of the things with one of the songs, I think it's Sunny's Burning, where it starts out with Nick Cave just going, hands up, who wants to die? And it's like that is the vibe of Nick Cave for me
like
forever.
A kind of clown. Yeah, like a gothic clown.
What I wanted to say was, I think about a lot of this stuff that I guess I just am glad that like I kind of, you know, we had a lot of huge kind of generational international crises when we were your age and slightly older. Mm-hmm. But there is this thing where it's like you kind of missed the thing where this stuff would be so ubiquitous in your very young days that like it would fundamentally alter your worldview. Yeah. Like, because I can remember the pre-internet era. I know you can too, Francis. Like we went to school before the internet was really a thing. Like I remember having to do like basic little like grade school research things where you have to pull out the index cards from the library cabinet to find a book. Like we didn't have library computers.
Dewey Decimal System, baby.
Yeah. I mean, that's still around, I'm pretty sure. But like
Strangers with Candy.
We had to know it. We had to actually learn it. Yeah. Strangers with Candy.
I'm watching Strangers with Candy.
Once again, this is very funny. Your love of.
I've got a Principal Onyx Blackman T-shirt.
What I wanted to say though, really quickly, was that's David Sedaris' sister.
Yeah, Amy Sedaris.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of stuff that I was into when I was like David Sedaris.
Yeah.
And that kind of like David Sedaris and the English equivalent of David Sedaris, Alan Bennett.
Now you have to like listen to Ben Folds 5 or something like that to be like fully that type of American 18-year-old in 2003.
No, exactly. But
the halcyon days. I wish we could return to 2003. It's like I was there. It sucked.
Yeah. Again, but like I think the fundamental thing is like I learnt this from like being really into like the 60s and the 80s when I was like 14, 15, and like I I want to be like Paul Weller. I want to be like, like Joe Strummer. And like the 60s was shit. The 80s was shit. The experience of most people in most times in the Western world is shit because of capitalism and fascism and imperialism and all of these horrible things. Most people's lives and everything is just kind of, there's nothing like nostalgia is a fundamentally thwarted ambition because there is no way in which any time in the past is going to be better than the future, and no way that the future is going to be any better than where we are now. Everything will just be the same level of, there's an instinct, again, we don't know what's going to happen, but there's an instinct to say everything will just remain the same level of shit because we're all fundamentally, at our core as humans, the same people we were when we were still in caves.
Well, something that I would point out, though, as a counterpoint to this is that there is something different about the accessibility of things. Both the big point I'd make is that, so before they just became the sort of Poptimist magazine and then also just shut down, Pitchfork as a web blog where they were really shit. I mean, they were shitty. They were really incisive, but also really misogynist.
On you Grinch.
Yeah, Goop on you Grinch is the joke about them, about the style of review they would write. That's kind of a later thing, but like in the early 2000s. But they would sometimes put out these really interesting lists, and one of them they would do like the 100 best albums of the 70s. And I think they put David Bowie's Low as number 1, and they put like Another Green World by Brian Eno as like number 4, number 5, and like a bunch of these albums.
Quite a good album.
They put I think they put Pink Flag as number 2, the Wire album. It was very hard to find those online because we didn't have streaming, and unless you had a ton of money and you were going to buy them. And I, knew how to kind of pirate music, but it wasn't easy. Like if I had the ability when I was 19 or 20, I would have, if streaming had been around, listened to every single album on that list front to back.
People do. It's a whole thing.
And I would have, and I don't know how that would have affected how I like presented myself as like, I love post-punk. I love post-punk so much. I want to move to Britain and live during a period of total social collapse because it'll be so cool. It'll be like when Gang of Four did their first album, and it's like, well, guess what, fucker? You got your wish.
You're living
it sucks really bad. My sewer collapsed under my house. Fuck.
Yeah. Where are our Gang of Four now?
Where are they? Yeah, I don't know.
It's my responsibility.
Yeah,
it's our responsibility to fix all this stuff and do all the cool cultural things. And it's, again, all that interesting stuff, all that really interesting stuff.
So does that posit that you're going to create the sort of Marxist art rock record, and then you're going to be like, that's not going to sell very well. What if we did disco? What if we did I Love a Man in Uniform? Still a good song,
brilliant song.
Yeah.
Entertainment is a really, really great EP.
We're going to have to jump off soon. It's a full album, man. It's an LP.
Yeah, so I don't know what I'm talking about.
But anyway, you guys can just go for another 30 minutes.
But I have to ask, Francis, do we have an Ask a Dad question before we
No, we gotta, I gotta jump off.
You gotta jump off? Okay, well, we talked forever.
Yeah. Well,
any closing thoughts, Francis? Because we went on a riff reverie there for a second.
No, this is great. I was glad to meet Keaton. I know you've talked about him, and I am glad to know that there are still some of those weird, teens out there that are into.
There are always, again, that's a fundamental thing.
I know there's always weird teens.
There's always weird teens. I will leave you with a funny story, hopefully. So I was in New York recently, my first time, and I just gone off just for a walk, and I was on like Avenue A, like somewhere in the Lower East Side, and I went into a convenience store because it was like 35 degrees Celsius, so like 80, 90 degree heat, like really hot. And I needed some water, and I'm pronouncing that specifically because there's a reason for that. So I went in to this like deli, and I asked the woman who was running the deli, "Excuse me, can I get a bottle of water?" And she completely blanked me, like I was speaking a completely foreign language, like I was speaking like Mandarin. And it was only after like 10 seconds of being like, "Hang on, what?" that I realized, oh, I literally said bottle of water, like the joke, and she didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. And then also it was quite funny because I said that, and then she just went THC because it turned out I was in a weed store as well. So
yeah, can I have it strawberry flavored?
Yes.
I've accidentally said strawberry instead of strawberry, the way we say it in American English, and he has never let me fucking live it down.
Absolutely not.
He's like, hands up, this is a strawberry. All right, so I feel like we're exhausting your time, Francis, but it's great speaking to you. And
I'm interested to see what hijinks your daughter will get up to soon.
Don't worry, we're going to be talking about it constantly.
Techno hacker style. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
she's going to be reading The Matrix soon enough.
Yeah, that's the new teen fad.
Hack the planet.
Oh,
Hack the planet.
See, we were the primary audience for that shit, so we know all of it.
I saw that film. It was quite good, actually. Yeah, Angelina Jolie looked like that photo.
Except Johnny Lee Miller's American accent was so bad that even at age 11, I was like, that man is not American.
No, it's terrible. It's so bad.
Anyway, we got to run. Yeah. So thank you again for all the listeners out there. Please subscribe to Patreon if you want more content like this, because we love to just get nuts with it. But in the meantime, we'll speak to you soon. We'll be back next week. And Francis, have a good one, dude.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Au revoir.